Curious, on Joe Rogan, you talked about an experience that made you, I think you quit all substances or quit psychedelics for 12 years, but Joe didn't really ask you about that. I was curious if you could tell us what that experience was about.
Yeah. Well, it was one of those, typical, bad trips. You're with people, that you either don't know or don't like. There's, kind of tension in the group. Yeah, and I took some LSD. It was my, senior year in college. Yeah, and I was kind of in the middle of all this, kind of interpersonal drama with friends and roommates and girlfriends and all that stuff. Yeah, and we were walking down, from day in the mountains, and it just kind of hit me all at once that I was insane, and I had always been insane, and I was just realizing it, even though the rest of the world had been interacting with me my whole life in the context of me being insane, and I was just discovering it, and I thought, oh, the jig's up, yeah, and I was going to be ending up in a mental hospital for the rest of my life, and just all that stuff. Um, so I kept quiet, and my friends, dropped me off at. Uh, I'm at a. I, I'm at a sober friend's house. Thankfully, this was like an old childhood friend who was going to the same school at the time. Yeah, and I, knocked on the door and I said, I need help. And, we talked and he said, well, so I explained this, scenario, and he said, oh, that makes no sense. And I said, why do you think that? And he explained it, rather briefly. And, yeah, it made no sense. And I came down, but still I was so horrified that I never, tripped again for 12 years. Yeah, in the meantime, I had, learned to meditate. I had spent time at a monastery,
Yeah.
finished medical school, all that stuff, so, and I started off with MDMA, which is a lot milder. Um, but still, I mean, those kinds of experiences need to be talked about,
Yeah.
because it isn't, that's not a challenging experience. There's this, meme out there, that adverse reactions are, they're not really, they're not really adverse reactions. They're, challenging experiences. I wouldn't call that uh, challenging experience. I would call it a, temporary psychosis that, left me scarred.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well,
Traumatic experience.
it,
It was traumatic, yeah.
it,
Well, it was interesting. 12 years elapsed, and I had moved to New Mexico. I started working at UNM, and some friends of mine were kind of working in the MDMA underground. And they said, "Oh, you want to trip?" And I'm gonna tell you, I was nervous because it was the first time I had taken any strong substance for quite a long time. Yeah, but MDMA, relatively speaking, is much more manageable than LSD.